Om Sahana Vavtu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Okay, so we had finished verse 33 of chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita, chapter on meditation. And Arjun had a doubt. And the verse 33 that we finished, basically he was saying that, hey Lord Krishna, this yoga of equanimity that you have been teaching me in this chapter, that I don't see that it can last for too long because of the restlessness of mind. And then we have discussed that how we also have the same issue. And then Krishna Bhagavan didn't say anything, so he's explaining further why he has this doubt. And that's this next verse that we're doing today, verse 34. I'm going to chant. Chanchalam himana Krishna pramati balavadrudam tasyaham nigraham manye vayorivat sudushkaram. So the words are chanchalam, restless. He's talking about the mind. He is verily, mana is the mind. Krishna, oh Krishna, he's addressing him as Krishna. And Swami Chinmayananji is going to explain why he's called him Krishna in this one. Pramati, this word means turbulent. And there are many different things in this word that we'll see. Balavat, we know the Hindi word bal, strong. Drudham, unyielding. This also has a lot of other meaning hidden in it. Why it is like that. Tasya, of it. Aham is I. Nigraham is to control. Manye, think, means I think this way. So he's not saying that it cannot be done or anything. He's not challenging Lord Krishna, but he's saying, Mujhe aisa lagta hai, from my perspective. Okay? Vayo, of the wind. Iva, as, means as the wind. Dushkaram, difficult to do. So what is he saying over here? So he's saying, hey Lord Krishna, mind is chanchal. Chanchal means restless. Like a monkey jumping from one to another, one to another. Pramati means turbulent. Balavat, very strong. Drudham has tremendous stamina. जैसे कोई एक चीज में फंस गया तो वहीं पर रहेगा. ये quality कोई चीज में बहुत अच्छी होती है. Not in everything. Staying power of the mind. So so he's saying to control this, and the word is nigraham. इसको वश में करना, kind of. I consider it as difficult. And then he gives the example that as controlling the wind. Now let's look at the wind. Why did he choose this word wind? Now when you say wind, we should think of the Vayu factor, which is all around the earth. So you cannot confine the Vayu, right? Vayu अपनी मर्जी से चलती है. कोई argue करेगा कि you can take the Vayu and the tire and confine. We're not talking about that kind of thing. Okay? We are talking about Vayu as an element is very strong because, when there is like some kind of natural disaster of Vayu, that strong Vayu, even humans, they cannot do much, just clean up after it, no matter how much you secure yourself. So from that perspective, we have to see why he chose this. So he's saying that you cannot confine the Vayu, and then sometimes we know that hurricanes, tornado and all, they can do so much devastation. So same kind of force is in the mind. It's very powerful. So, Nikhilananji gave very good points about the mind. We have to understand first what mind is, where it's coming from, why it is so powerful. We got to a little bit contemplate upon all those things. So, let's understand our mind, and then we can, before we find a solution, how to tame it. So he was saying that actually mind is a very, very beautiful instrument given by God. And there is a verse in Bhagavad Gita only when it's like mind, mana eva manushyanam karanam bandham mokshaya, meaning mind is the one can be reason for its liberation of person or bondage. So it has a capability of both. It's like a doorknob. You can go in or out, but then how to tame it for our advantage, that's what we have to learn. That's what Krishna Bhagavan is teaching us. So in the other way, we know that as we think, that so we are, kind of thing. So as our mind, so is our experience in life. So if our mind is happy, that's when we feel happy. And the mind is sad, no matter you sit in heaven, you're going to feel sad. So, that's the power of the mind they're talking about. So sometimes, you wonder that this person has got everything, and why are they depressed? Because their mind is like that, that's why. So basically what he's trying to imply, that if we can take care of our mind, we can take care of ourselves. Okay? So, and then we know that our mind has a tremendous influence on the body also, right? In fact, I know a lot of you are connected with Ayurveda and all that. Manju ji is here. Kamla ji is today not here, but, she follows all the Ayurvedic thing and yoga and all. They actually believe that all the disease, especially, we're not talking about accidents and things like that, but, lifestyle disease and whatever other things they talk about, everything starts in the mind, and then it manifests in the body. And even in modern world, they accept the psychosomatic things, that, hey, a lot of diseases are psychosomatic, born from the mind only. And that's why people who start meditating and all that, it's for the very higher purpose. Of course, we're learning in Geeta, it's for moksha, but people get so many medical benefits, right? Blood pressure comes down and all their levels and hormones start balancing and all that, because there's a huge connection. And now even the West is realizing it. So basically, if we change our thinking, we are able to change, if we can change our feeling and all, change our attitude, lot of diseases get rectified and we regain our health. So that's why it is such a fascinating instrument. And then we know that another thing that he brought about, that we don't think about it much, that mind not only influences our body, but also the environment around us. It is that powerful because it can influence other people's mind, And that Nikhilanand was saying that because, in his lecture, he was saying, hey, I'm talking to you guys, I'm influencing your mind. Good or bad, it is happening, right? One person can influence the other person. So that is the power of mind. So what sometimes, just the mere presence of somebody can have a difference. Some people say, how that's possible? If a very angry person enters the room, uske mind mein bhara hua hai na anger, but it manifests with his how and all that. It can change the whole environment, right? So another point that we don't think about, that we learned in the Kathopanishad and even in Bhagavad Gita, that at a certain level, everybody's mind is connected to each other. Okay? We have this parda, so to speak. That's why we cannot. But there are people who can have telepathy and, in some cases they can read other people's mind. Because mind at a very, very subtle level is connected to each other, just like the internet is connected. That's why all this mind is such a powerful thing, So, and then, firstly, immediate surrounding, it is connected to, and, but there are other facets of mind that he brought out, which was very, very interesting. He's saying that in a family, we are connected through the mind only with other family members, right? We know their personality, this, that, it's all connection of the mind. And also the mind is connected to our past. Not only our past, we'll analyze how the mind has so many different things. So my own past, everything is in my mind only, right? And there is a pressure in my mind about different things. And, like coming from India, we understand the pressure of traditions, right? that, oh, ye karna hai, wo karna hai, all that comes from our own mind only, because it's connected to all these things. And past generations also. कुछ अच्छा हुआ है, बुरा हुआ है generation में, even historically, whatever has happened, it's all in the mind only. Because where is this force coming from? That's what he was trying to say. And we never think about it, all those things. And then, what our education has been is going to influence the mind. What our sanskar and training is going to have the mind. Even place where we stay is going to have an influence on our mind. So, kitna kuch bhara hua hai mind mein. Or type of book we read, type of program we watch, all that has with all this influence, each person has developed a unique quality of mind. And that this is, and it has a strength of its own. And the other thing that if we don't study Vedanta, we don't think about this. He's saying that mind is not just a thing, okay? Like an instrument that we talk about, some ordinary thing. Because mind, even if after person dies, physical death, mind survives. This is what we have learned, right? The subtle body. Mind is a subtle part of our body, and that survives our physical death. So body can fall down, get disintegrated, and all the 5 elements go back to the 5 element like we were talking about. But mind is the one, when we talk about subtle body, mind is the most important part of that subtle body, which is all the impressions from all the different lives and, all our karmic account, is stuck to it. And then this particular mind is the one which creates and occupies another body. So power of mind, we never think about it. We think, oh, a person is dead, a mind is gone. No, it's not. According to the Shastra, it's not, And now the West is also realizing that brain and mind are two different things. Brain is just the physical equipment through which the mind functions. That's all it is. Sometimes there could be a defect in the physical instruments. So for that particular life, they might have some issue, but in reality, in the bigger picture, they may not. So we have to think about all those things. So basically in this, kind of explanation of the mind, that, hey, it catches hold of another equipment, the same mind. So that's why, a lot of people think that, oh, it's good to take care of body, but mind is a lot more important, because, body is going to drop, but mind is not going to drop. So it's better to work on the mind a lot more. So basically, we kind of have to remember that the mind doesn't die, and it can keep changing, of course, because when the new knowledge comes in, the old has to go. So it's a dynamic thing. It's not a fixed thing. That's another very important thing. So that's why it is such a powerful instrument, because if it survives everything, so we have to understand what it is, and then we will be able to manage it. So, and the point that Mithilananji was making, that once we know how to handle this mind, then our life will be fulfilling. And this whole thing about inner engineering of Sadhguru, that's exactly what he says, that, you have your mind, you don't know how to manage, you make yourself miserable, come and I'll teach you how to do the inner engineering. He calls it a very nice technical word, and engineer your mind in such a way that you have a fulfilling, happy, blissful life, So that's what it is. So another point he was trying to make is, Nikhilananji was saying that we might have a great education, great degrees, but if we have not understood our mind, we have not understood anything, according to him. Because they are very blunt, the Mahatmas are very blunt. And then these are Vivekananda's word, that if we only conquer our mind, we have conquered the whole world. हमने भी सुना है, right? मन को जीत लेना वगैरह, like that. And he said that समझो किसी ने पूरा world conquer कर लिया हो, okay? और उसने अपना mind नहीं conquer किया हो, उसने कुछ conquer नहीं किया है. इतना उन्होंने strongly mind के बारे में, he made the statement. So basically, whatever Arjun's doubt is, at the face of it, you know, it is very much applicable, because after listening to this whole um, discourse about how to meditate and all that, we feel a little bit scared because, hey, how to manage my mind? When I actually start doing it, it doesn't work. So there's a validity in Arjun's question. So now, these are the broad things about the mind. So now let's get a little bit deeper into it, what he's talking about. What is mind? So it's made up of thoughts. Whenever there is a thought in our mind, is associated with an object. This is a scientific fact. And the mind also has emotions in it, right? We all know that, we have different types of emotion. And that's also part of, when you take a bigger picture of mind, all these things come in it. Mind, intellect, ego, everything is together. So he was just saying that how mind thinks in the form of pictures and ideas and colors and taste and sound and fragrance and all these. That's how the mind can think. This is the natural part of the thing. All of us have the same thing. So it also has all these impressions from the past, because now he's bringing another aspect why mind is so powerful. So हम वो डेटा गैदर करते जाते हैं, वो पास्ट का भी भरा हुआ है हमारे मन इसमें, कई जन्मों का. So that's why it is constantly thinking. Mind को चुप कराना इतना आसान नहीं है, right? Like our teacher used to say sometime, like we see somebody on the street and जो बोलता जा रहा है कोई है नहीं. आजकल तो confused हो जाते हैं because people have earphones and you don't know who they are talking to. So I'm not talking about those people, but there are some crazy people,
Very careful. Go.
Oh, sorry, somebody came in. I gotta mute them. Okay. So there are some people who keep talking and there is nobody around and they keep talking. And we consider them crazy. But what our teacher used to say, hey, we all are crazy because we maybe मुंह बंद है हमारा, mind चल रहा है. Mind का talk चल रहा है. So सभी का यही हाल है, We may be laughing at the other people, but we are no different than them. So it's constantly thinking. And that's why our Chinmayananji, he explained mind meaning flow of thoughts, he called it. And, just like a river, remember that we were talking about? So it is very natural that it's continuously going to keep thinking. So he's saying that because it kind of thinks of so many different thoughts, that's why our attention period is very low. किसी एक चीज पे ध्यान लगाना मुश्किल है. Impossible नहीं है, मुश्किल है. And we know that people who are very successful, they know how to concentrate on one topic for a long time. That's why they can do it. So he's saying, and then another thing he brought out, which kind of, we kind of know it, but we don't contemplate upon it. He's saying there are so many distractions in today's world that it's become even more difficult than previous times, to usko control mein karna. So he was talking about the news. मैं ज़्यादा न्यूज़ वगैरह देखती नहीं हूँ, मगर कभी-कभी, when the TV is on, okay, or somewhere. He was saying that पुराने ज़माने में ना, एक लेडी आती थी न्यूज़ देने के लिए, वो बोलती रहती थी, right? और हम सुनते थे न्यूज़ ध्यान लगा के. और अभी बोलते कि जब न्यूज़ आती है तो वी हैव सीन कि क्या होता है. एक बोल रही है, फिर दूसरा आएगा पिक्चर, फिर वो डिस्कशन होगा, फिर नीचे कुछ चल रहा होगा, right? Like, it's not distraction. News सुनने में भी there is like 10 different distractions. And it's getting worse by the day. Like, you feel so split in your mind. मैं इसको देखूं कि उसको देखूं and all that. So it is kind of going the opposite. What we are trying to do is concentrate, and is going the other way. It is because he's saying that these news wallahs know that, our mind kind of likes that. What our mind likes, that's not what we have to do. What is good for it, we have to do, right? So that's why they give us this entertainment and all that. And he's saying, but if you observe the nature, take a walk in the nature, or go somewhere, near a garden or an ocean or a tree, it has a rhythm, it's smooth, it's slow. And, but we have, in today's world, lost touch with it, he was saying. So he was saying that ki purane zamane mein, like we are at that age, we'll remember that. I remember when I was growing up, I didn't have toys. And now you see my grandson, there are more toys in their house than furniture right now. He's only like 15 months old. So he's saying that we played with nature, and nature is slow. He's saying even just to look at an ant crawling, it's a different thing to see that. He's saying, but these days, if you want to see an ant crawling, they don't want to do that. They want a video game of ants. I thought that he gave such a fantastic analogy he gave. So he's saying where, you will have not one ant, but many ants. And then you will like, hey, tha karke usko सबको खत्म कर दो, फिर वो सेकंड लेवल पे जाओ and all that. I mean, सब कुछ artificial होता जा रहा है. So he was just saying that it is when Arjun said the man is chanchal or restless, this encourages the today's world, the way it has become. So that's why for us this question is even more relevant, because it's so difficult to have mind in one place. So that's why we need to train the mind to slow and soothe it. So he was just saying that we need to spend a little more time with nature. Then we have a better chance of the mind soothing, flower blooming, water flowing and all that. And in San Diego, we can definitely do that a lot. And he actually said that that's why some people keep this aquarium in their house, to see the nature. चलो मैं वहाँ जो लोग हम लोग को तो कितना बेटर है यहाँ सैन डिएगो में ना, थोड़ा सा ड्राइव किया और ओशन पे चले जा सकते हैं. Other people don't have that luxury, so then they kept fishes in their home. And then I never thought about it, but he said, there are, Rama Kanji is also Gujarati. He said, Gujarati, you have hichko. You sit on the jhula. He's saying, why you sit on the jhula? Because soft and slow movement, he's saying, it quietens the mind. I never thought about it. That's why सभी को झूले पे बैठना इतना अच्छा लगता है, because mind slow हो जाता है और आनंद आने लगता है, like it is just such an amazing simple thing, but we don't think about it, So this is what all about restlessness. And then the other word was pramati. Pramati is turbulent. So he was explaining that how certain thoughts and emotions in mind cause so much turbulence that body also starts getting affected and moving, and senses get all wild and restless and all that. And depending on the type of thought. But just a simple negative thought can start moving a person tremendously. इतना power होता है उसमें. किसी को बहुत गुस्सा आ गया. Okay, so you can see the signs on the body. गुस्से में तो पता नहीं लोग क्या क्या कर देते हैं, right? So this is all coming from the mind only. Or some thought of some greed or desire or something, then body becomes restless also. Strong desire of certain things. And we saw how the whole connection of desire, anger is the same energy. For desire, it turns into anger and all that. We saw all the verses. So certain thoughts and emotions, they can instantly shake a person. It doesn't need much time. He's saying one thought of fear, immediately the heart will start beating. We all have experienced that. So strong. Means उसका देखो कितना माइंड में, और वो गलत भी हो सकता है थॉट की, कोई चीज सचमुच है नहीं तो उसका फियर आ जाए बस. That's enough. Instantly it will start. So, and the third word he used was balavat. Extremely strong, because he's saying that the strength of the mind does not depend on age at all. कभी कोई छोटे बच्चे का भी देखो ना, किसी की चीज में वो इतना स्ट्रांग होता है कि उसको किसी चीज में नहीं खाना है तो वो फेंक देगा, खाना खाएगा नहीं, And then even when you get older, with the age, when the memory loss and all, that's a different kind of thing he's talking about. We're not talking about that. But the strength of the mind, the age is not a factor, because mind is very ancient. We saw why, right? Body, it can get rid of, but body can age and all, but he's saying mind is very ancient, it will survive everything. That's why it is so strong. So basically, a certain type of thought or emotion, when it comes in our mind, we cannot get away from it. That's why it is like strong. Okay, so he was explaining that sometimes some fear or some experience may happen in the childhood, and that particular emotion or feelings and all stays with you rest of your life. ये सब माइंड में ही हो रहा है, राइट? उसका इसलिए स्ट्रेंथ बताया, जो स्ट्रेंथ की बात कर रहे थे वो, कि कहाँ से आता है ये. कोई बचपन में फियर, सैडनेस कुछ भी हो सकता है, एंड यू होल्ड ऑन टू इट, Such is the nature, is very strength. It's not that easy to just give it up or suppress it or something, because if you fight it, और वो टर्बुलेंट हो जाता है, उसको माइंड को सप्रेस करने की कोशिश करो, फाइट दैट थॉट, not exactly torture it, but punish the mind, whatever you do, but mind become victorious. उसको जो करना होगा वो करेगा. This is the flip side, इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि there is no remedy for it, but where Arjun's question was coming from, that's what we are trying to analyze. Okay, so बेसिकली अगर माइंड में एक किसी चीज की फैंसी हो जाए ना, कोई डिजायर और इमोशन की, तब वो बलवत हो जाता है. एंड फ्रॉम आवर हिस्ट्री एंड पुराना स्टोरी एंड ऑल, ही वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट रावण को सीता जी पे बस फैंसी हो गई, फिर उसने मरने तक नहीं छोड़ा वो. ही वाज जस्ट सेइंग कि माइंड का कितना स्ट्रांग होता है. एंड एवरीबॉडी नोज द विश्वामित्र की स्टोरी, that he was doing tapas and he was on the right path and suddenly got distracted by this apsara. So mind ki wajah se, but finally he obviously with his willpower and effort he went back to his path. But bade badon ko hila deta hai iska strength. That's what he was talking about. And then the last word was dridham. Dridham means किसी इस context में dridham का है tremendous stamina, does not get tired of running after one object. एक कोई strong desire आ जाए ना मन में, mind does not get tired of running after it. Constantly thinking. So that's what it is. So that's why, body might become old and weak and all. Mind is not going to become old and weak. That's what he was talking about. It's tremendous stamina it has. So इतना सब के बाद अर्जुन का प्रश्न ये है कि भगवान, you are telling me control this mind, and I am finding it very difficult. So, and then he gave the example that it's difficult like a vayu, means just to kind of a little bit summarize it, that the vayu is very chanchal, cannot remain in one place. Vayu is turbulent, vayu is balavat, and dridham means pramathi, balavat, dridham, turbulent, strong, and dridham is staying power. Very, very difficult to he did not say it's impossible. That's another very important thing. But when he looked at the whole technique of meditation, the first thing was, hey, whenever your mind runs here and there, bring it back and put it on the self. That's what he said, right? So, and he's saying, okay, in the end, I understand you told me that we have to transcend our mind, right? That's what we learned. That you have to but before transcending, I have to manage my mind, and that's where I'm having a problem. So initial stages, you told me to quieten the mind, not what do I do? Very genuine question he had. And the Swamiji was saying that how, people will listen to his lectures and they'll appreciate it, and immediately the word but will come. Swamiji, everything you're saying is very good, but I cannot follow it. And then they will give some, very nice, but it's not possible. Ghar mein ye pareshani hai, family members are not cooperating, I have a problem with my work, or but shuru ho jayega, right? So he's saying that he was just joking. The Swamiji was joking. He said that they will say as though, कि ये अगर ये सब problem नहीं होता ना, so I would have become a spiritual giant. But what can I do? So basically, that's what this whole verse is about. And in the next one, after listening to all this from Arjun, these two verses, Krishna Bhagavan did not get discouraged. He said, yes, you are right, but there is a solution. So we'll see that solution next time. But this is what this verse is about. Anybody has any question, comment, or want to add anything to this? Manju, you have to unmute. Can't hear you. Unmute. Still can't hear. Are you on your phone? If you're on the phone, then it is left. Okay, while Manju is trying to figure out how to unmute, anybody else has any question or comment? You're still muted, Manju. Okay, so now finally, bolo.
अच्छा, जैसे ना हम लोग को बताते थे एक क्लास में कि मन को अमन करने का बहुत अच्छा तरीका है श्रद्धा से वो माइंड धीरे धीरे लय में आने लगता है. So there's so many things. Let's say now we're listening to the Geeta class. So our mind from all other things, we are concentrating on your talk. When we do music, when we do pranayam, when we do yoga, जब हम घर में बैठ के पूजा करते हैं, जैसे कि पुराने जमाने में पूजा करते थे ना, बैठ करके फूल सजाएंगे, फिर खूब प्यार से भजन गाएंगे, फिर 6 मंत्र, like that, ऐसे करके वो धीरे धीरे लय में आने लगता है.
Yeah, bilkul. And that's exactly what Krishna Bhagwan is going to talk about in the next verse. So that's why we are, but the reason this is a very significant question by Arjuna and it touches our heart, because जब भी हम meditation के लिए बैठते हैं तो हमको मालूम है क्या होता है. Right? That's why. So he's just saying कि भाई आपकी सब बात ठीक है, and they are having a conversation. And through that we are learning. So absolutely true. It's not like it's impossible, but I thought that the analysis of Nikhilanandji was so great, that why mind is so powerful, because mind is not something that we can see, capture it so easily with our understanding. It's like a very, very complex thing, and some people who don't believe in reincarnation or something, they might just not think about, but हमारे पुराने ज़माने का पिछले जन्मों का भरा हुआ है उसमें, तो उसका स्ट्रेंथ कहाँ से आ रहा है. So उसको करना इतना आसान नहीं है, और उनको पेशेंस चाहिए उसके लिए. That's another very thing, because remember we talked about it in this verse. In this chapter it came that Krishna Bhagwan said, Shane, slowly it's going to happen. Because we get frustrated, hey, I've been meditating for so long, why nothing is happening? Maybe there is some improvement that you're not seeing it. Because like Nikhilanandji said, for some people it might take days, another months, another whole life it might take. We don't know. So that's why we're trying to analyze this, So whatever you are saying is absolutely true. There are remedies, Okay, any volunteers to read the Chinmayanandji's commentary? Oh, yeah, Premji. Yes. Unmute yourself, Premji.
The mind verily is, O Krishna, restless, turbulent, strong and unyielding. I deem it quite as difficult to control it as the wind. There is an atmosphere of intimacy and love, surrender and respect in the very note of helplessness in Arjuna's words in this stanza. This art of making an emotion echoes through the rhythm of the words is often met with in Sanskrit, although rarely, if ever at all, we use them in English poetry also.
So he's just telling you that this particular verse, the way he kind of said it, उसमें बहुत सारा emotions भरा हुआ है, he's talking to Krishna and he's telling his helplessness about it, and all the feelings and all that, and just because he used the way he used those 4 words, Pramati, Balavat, Drudam, Chanchal, and all that. So he's just saying that how it brings out all that. Mm-hmm.
There is a notion of difference between a modern man condemning the sacred scripture of our land and a true seeker questioning the same philosophy in his honest attempt to understand the full import and the wealth of suggestiveness contained therein. In his acute awareness, Arjuna, as it were, realizes deep within himself his own subjective experience that a mind cannot be stilled, as it is ever turbulent, strong, and unyielding.
So he's just saying that एक होता है कि वो people don't believe in the Shastras, what they're saying and all that, or condemning, oh, this is all nonsense and all that. And the other one is, hey, I understand that it has a lot of substance. I'm not understanding. I have these doubts. And then he's presenting his question. So that's why Arjuna never said it's impossible or something. Saying it's difficult. That's how he's telling, because he wants to hear more. Even though Krishna Bhagwan has told all the remedies, it's something like, like my husband always says, hey, what is the bottom line? And you're giving all this lecture and all, in the end, I want to go home with a bottom line. So he wants to hear the bottom line from Krishna Bhagwan. That's what he's going to come up with. Saar bata denge, ye do kaam karo ho jayega, kind of thing. That's what he's looking for. So he's asking that question.
These three terms are quite pregnant in their own imports. Turbulence shows not only the speed in the flow of thoughts, but also their restlessness, agitations, causing on surface undulating waves rising pell-mell. Not only does the flood of thoughts flow fast and rough, but having reached its destination at some sense objects or the other, it gets itself so powerfully attached to it that it becomes strong in its new route. Mind in turbulence is no doubt difficult to arrest, but when it gets strongly riveted, it is difficult to pluck it away from its attachment. And the third characteristic features of the mind is that when it has flown into any channel of its own choice, for the moment it is so unyielding that it is impossible for the individual to pull it back from its flight and persuade it to stay at the determined point of the concentration. It is to be remembered that this was the technique advised by Krishna for the practice of meditation earlier in this chapter.
So he's just bringing out the same exact thing that we discussed in detail, that, hey, Krishna Bhagwan said, bring your mind from the sansar, put it on the self. And then here we know that mind has all these restlessness, turbulence, agitation, attachment, और एक बार किसी चीज से powerfully attach हो गया, वही ध्यान में आता है and all that, all the things that we discussed. That's why it becomes so unyielding. कोई जिद पे आ जाए ना, कोई बच्चा, उसको किसी चीज से हटाने पर कितना टाइम लगता है. So like that, same way, कोई जिद में आ जाता है जिसको बोलते हैं, वो सब प्रॉब्लम है माइंड में.
The strength and vigor, the vivacity and treachery, the penetrativeness and all pervasiveness of the mind cannot be better expressed than by the simile given here as that of the wind. In raising this question, Arjuna is asking Krishna some practical tips by which he can gain perfect control over the stormy nature of unyielding, strong, turbulent, and restless mind, wherein, unlike in the previous stanza, the Lord is addressed by his most familiar name, Krishna, a word that comes from the root
Krish.
To scrape. The term Krishna is applicable to the self because on realization of the truth, the threats of delusory mind and the consequent dreamy vivasana will all be scraped away from our cognition.
So he's talking about that, firstly, compare it to the wind. We already saw that how wind has all those four qualities: unyielding, strong, turbulent, restless. And then he said that he addressed Krishna Bhagwan as Krishna here because पहले उन्होंने कितने अलग-अलग नाम दिए, मधुसूदन बोला उसके पहले वाले में, right? So there is a reason, because Krishna word has come from Krish dhatu, which means to scrape. अपनी सारी मैल निकाल देना, जैसे, वासना बोला यहाँ पर. वासना means all the impressions, that's what we're trying to do with karma yoga anyway. We are trying to remove our vasanas and impressions by doing that. So that's why he is kind of want this so bad, Arjun, that he's addressing him that way. Yeah. And then there is another paragraph about that word Krishna.
The bloody hands of the dreamer get automatically cleaned, and the entire moral stigma attached to the murderers immediately gets clear when the dreamer wakes up. Similarly, the mind and its onslaught is its vasanas and their tyranny the intellect and its quest, physical body and its appetites, all end with rediscovery of the true nature of self. Therefore, the poet-philosopher Vyasa, in his immortal classic Mahabharata, paints the inner self as Lord Krishna, the flute player of the Vrindavan. In Sanskrit, this is a special art unknown to any other language in the world, using a proper noun to indicate the peculiar quality of the person that is to be suggested in the context of narration.
So he's just telling you further meaning that why Krishna Bhagwan is called our Atma, because the word Krishna itself is so powerful word, and in Sanskrit language, and we have seen in Ramayana, Mahabharata, all that everybody's character's name is, it defines them, what they are. So here, once we know ourself, then all the delusion goes away. And he gave the beautiful example that, suppose a person is dreaming that somebody got murdered and, hands are full of blood, but when he wakes up, his hands are not tainted by blood. All that falls away. Same way, we have सब कुछ भरा हुआ है हमारे मन में, वो सब एक क्षण में clean हो जाता है once you have that साक्षात्कार. So basically he's just telling you, and that's what Arjun wants to get there, but he's telling his difficulty. That's all that's happening over here.
Accepting the argument of Krishna, of Arjuna, the Lord answers to prove that there is a method by which the invincible mind can be brought under control.
So that we will see next time. We will talk about Abhyas and Vairagya, bottom line, to control the mind, which has a lot of thing in it, So that's where we are. It was simple, but still very, very important, because all of us face the same problem like Arjuna was facing. And we, best thing is, Krishna Bhagavan said, don't worry, I'll give you the remedy, So that's what we have to think about it that way. Any point anybody wants to say? But something popped up on my phone. I don't know how to get
in
rid of
our
it.
in our Bhagavad Gita and all these our ancient books, anywhere is been written where the mind is in the body or location, or defined the word mind in that sense of reincarnation?
Yes, there are a lot of ways, and Swamiji has given a lot of explanation about it. When we talk about the mind, it doesn't have a fixed location, because that's where the confusion is, because some people always think that mind is only in the head or something, right? But like now even science is finding out that they feel like, we call it gut feeling, right? Why do we say gut feeling? Because it's in the gut also. So the way Chinmayananji explained, mind pervades the entire body and even outside the body. That's why it can influence. It's a subtle thing. But the brain is just an instrument through which all those five senses and all those are perceived. And that is why when the physical body dies, mind is still there. And sometimes we may have a hard time. India में उसको इतना गलत ढंग से present करते हैं ना, उसको भूत बना दिया, ये बना दिया, it just made it so, and the movies are even more horrible, the way they presented the subtle body. Something scary and horrible. It's not like that at all. So when the bondage of the body goes, mind can still cognize everything. Because the subtle, form of all the five senses are still there in the mind. So that's why in the Shastras, they don't consider mind confined like that, the way they maybe the science. I mean, science is also changing now. And then there is someday where I will bring this, so Chinmayananji has a book called Self-Unfoldment, and there's a whole chapter of mind, how the scriptures explain. There are 4 components of it: Man, Buddhi, Chit, and Ahankar. And all of that made together, and then each one has its function, and together it's called a mind. And then sometimes in the commentary and all, he will call it mind and intellect, like that, right? So there is a data collecting aspect of the mind, which is called the lower mind, and then there is a decision making aspect of the mind, that's called intellect. So after data is collected, then I make a decision, and that decision, if it is wisdom based on some higher part of consciousness, then our decisions will be good. That's why they have the term sthita prajna, like man of steady wisdom, usko bola gaya hai, because he's established in that higher wisdom. So the higher we go, so very interesting thing is I think the Eastern philosophy is a master of the mind, I would say. They have explored, they know how to manage, they give all the techniques, sometimes simple techniques like breath and all. Why the breath? Because it brings the mind to the present. It's a very simple technique, because breath everybody has. As long as you have a body and alive, you're going to have the breath. So that's another very powerful technique, and all to do with mind. So someday
that's right. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Any other question, comment? Anybody want to add anything? Okay. So shall I close Bhagavad Gita then? Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyah mokshayishyami ma shachah. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.